everyone. Good morning. Welcome to the webinar. My name is Chloe Gordon. I'm the VP of Digital here at Evident. And today we're continuing our webinar series on digital workflows, and we're talking about digital dentures. It seems like we're at this place where the innovation around I guess manufacturing equipment and materials are coming together where we can provide this amazing patient experience. And I know that when people start talking about digital denture, that sometimes my head is like, okay, like there's so many options. How does this work? How do we bring it all together? So that is why we have Kevin Dillon here from Desktop Health to help us, simplify, demystify the digital denture workflow. So welcome, Kevin. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, we're really excited to have you here. And I know you come to us with quite the extensive dental background, but why don't you tell everyone a little bit about yourself and the expertise you bring to the table?
Sure. I've been in the dental industry since 1990. I started with Leach & Dillon, which was the company that my father founded, manufacturing alloys and brought on porcelain. He left he helped sell the Williams Gold Company to Ivoclar, and then started his own company, Leach & Dillon. So I started in the lab business. We manufactured dental alloys and porcelains, and we brought Bago into the United States. We launched CapTech. There was a lot of things that we did, and it was back in the days when alloy sales were the big thing. So I sat beside the metallurgist, Dr. D.P. Agarwal, for years, analyzing problems that happen in PFMs, whether it's decontamination or the reasons why for failures, and we would analyze that and would go and troubleshoot it into laboratories. And so I kind of learned the lab business, the alloys, PFMs. We had a denture line called Enigma that we brought into North America. We represented Schottlander. So I've seen it all in the lab side as well as the dental side. And in 2008, I sold the company to American Dental Supply and stayed on there for about 4 years. I started to realize that digital dentistry and 3D printing was really where the future was going in our industry. And due to my non-compete, I couldn't stay within dentistry. So I completely trashed my entire dental career after all those years in 2012 and started selling 3D printers for Stratasys at a regional distributor. And I was knocking on doors like to Sikorsky, who makes Black Hawk helicopters, and Savage Arms, who makes, shotguns, and Unilever. And I learned 3D printing in that MCAD space. It taught me a lot. And in 2015, EnvisionTech found me on LinkedIn and brought me over with my dental experience and my 3D experience. And I've been with EnvisionTech for about 6.5 years now. So it's been a fun ride.
Yeah, I bet, man. I bet that's kind of like perfect timing with everything. So it sounds like you're in the perfect place. And with well, let's jump into it. And before we get started, we always like to get an idea of like who we have that's joining us on the webinar today. So we always like to start with a poll, so we kind of who we're talking to. So let's bring it up. Let's bring up the first poll, and we have 3 questions here. Are you 3D printing in your practice? Are you looking to purchase a 3D printer? And if you don't have one, what's keeping you from 3D printing? So let's take a second to let the audience do the poll, and then off we go. All right, so a few more seconds. All right, great. So we'll see kind of what the answers are to that. So leading up to the webinar, doctors generally write in and give us some questions that they want answered. And we got a lot of questions this time, but they all kind of came down to like two things of talk to me about Flexera and walk me through a digital workflow. So why don't we let's start with that. Oh, here's the polls. Cool. Okay, so let's start with that. So why don't you talk to us about Flexera? Like, why is it so great? Is it worth the hype?
Is it worth the hype? Well, it is worth the hype, actually. Awesome. And I kind of, we want to look at this digital workflow as it evolved, right? Vision Tech has been printing in 3D in dentistry since 2007. Most people feel this is a relatively new technology for our industry, when in fact it's not. And when Desktop Metal inquired in Vision Tech and turned it into Desktop Health, we've added a whole bunch of resources at our disposal. And we've been in development with Flexera for over 3 years. And when you look at the conversations that we're having with in 3D printing, a lot of it's centered around the printer. The narrative and the conversations that we're having around 3D printing today is more related to applications. One of the things that we've been really struggling with over these years is to find a solution for a denture, or for a denture conversion, or an implant supported hybrid bridge. And there hasn't been anything in this market. And the problem is that it hasn't been strong enough, and it hasn't been aesthetic enough. And we were in development looking at this thing for over 3 years. And one of the things we noticed is that with the typical type of chemistry that exists in 3D printing resin now, we'll never be able to achieve the strength that we're trying to get to. So the Flexera really started with breaking that backbone chemistry and starting anew with the new synthetic type polymers. And the goal was to create something that was strong enough to be used as a final denture and aesthetic enough that the patient accepts it. And with Flexera is basically 3 years in development of creating this new type of long chain polymer double cross-linked methylmethacrylate with ceramic infused, with a high degree of ceramic in there for the vigorous hardness and for the tensile strength. So when we're having these, we're looking for application solutions, it really revolves around what is in that bottle, what strength and what aesthetics is there. And up until this point, we've had first generation materials. And just like zirconia, it starts to evolve over a period of time. 3D printing in dentistry is not necessarily a revolution, but an evolution. And we're looking at Flexera as the second generation of this high strength, high aesthetic material. And that's the main difference.
It's fascinating. And so is there anything on the market that can compare to Flexera right now?
There's nothing on the market that has that same type of chemistry and does not compare to Flexera. So we have it in necessarily the teeth, and we have it in the base. And the advantage of it is it has a high work fracture rate. And the work fracture is what measures the ductility of a material or the brittleness of the material. And so we're 3 times that work fracture as Lucitone 199. So I mean, just to give you an example, if somebody wanted to test it, we brought it in a sample to their office, and they say, how do you test it? He goes, well, I drop it from 3 feet, then I drop it from 5 feet, then I throw it from 9 feet, then I throw it off the roof. Very scientific, but this is how we're trying to figure out. And it didn't break, and it was very impressive. And it's due to this chemistry that has been evolving, that we've been working on for quite a long time.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So, do you think we've come to a time now with, the evolution of the materials that we can truly do like an end-to-end digital denture workflow?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, the strength of this material has been the Flexera base has been Health Canada approved. The Flexera base and the Flexera Smile are Class 2 cleared for denture application. The Flexera Smile, we're waiting for the Health Canada to come through. So that was filed, I think, in the middle of the summer, and we're just waiting for the Health Canada to come. So we've got a Health Canada approved material that can be used in the mouth. And I think when we talk about the digital workflow, this is where we also have a huge development in. I mean, one of the biggest bottlenecks that we've had in this is the design part of it. And exocad and 3Shapes, they've really amped up the ability on their modules and what can be done in split models, and a lot of really cool stuff can be done. But a dentist doesn't have the ability to do that unless they have a technician who's trained on that. So the design aspect of that workflow is critical. And companies like Evident, which is the premier #1 design company in the world, right? This is where we lean on you to use your expertise to bring them back to something where that they can print. So the workflow is quite simple, right? You're going to provide the records, get the records from the patient. You can scan them in, or you can take a traditional impression and scan the model in, mark where your landmarks are, your retromolar pad, your incisal pilia, your central relations to video, all of that stuff gets put into the software, or in your case, sent to you. And then that is designed to the specifications of the patient, what the patient wants. It gets sent back to the doctor, and then the doctor can print it in their practice and provide it to the patient in a very short period of time.
It's just mind blowing when you really think about it. This is unheard of. We have like 7 questions from the audience, so let's power through some of these. So first one, I think you answered, is it available in Canada? So you were saying yes, available in Canada. So ting, did that one. Do you still need to do a try-in when doing a digital workflow?
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely think that's important. And when you're, so there's a couple of ways to do the try-in. You can take your regular records. I've seen it done 2 ways. You take your regular records, scan it in, print a denture, a full denture. And with the way most people will do this is they'll print a monolithic denture, which means they'll print it out of the tooth shade. So let's say it's an A1. Then that A1 goes in, and then the patient can see the smile, the teeth, whether they accept that or not. Take a wash impression and do your try-in and make your adjustments. It goes back to, it can be scanned and then goes back into the design, where the design center comes back with the corrected amount, and then it goes to a final prosthetic. So it can be done either way. Some people will do an immediate scan and have the design center design a denture, and then use that denture as a custom tray and do a wash impression, send that back, make sure as a try-in at the same time, and then send it back for a final. So there's different techniques on getting to that stage, but it's being worked out.
And that's where there's just like, there's so many options, and the importance of, having that good relationship with your design center, or just knowing what you're doing in exocad or 3Shape, because that's what's replacing like all those visits, right? Is the design component.
We're getting more accuracies from scans, and when we go from a scan to design, there's a lot less variables in between, whether it's press packing, or whether the stone has a different ratio, or all the steps in between that could have variables. And minimizing those variables are what helps increase the accuracy, as well as with the digital captured data, which is important. So that technology is what's providing us the accuracy and streamlining that workflow, whether it's a registration denture, or whether it's an immediate, or whether it's a copy denture. There's different workflows for each scenario. And when you want to compare it, we compare it to something like milling, for example. Milling's got an advantage because the materials that are used in milling are better than what they are with the 3D printing up until Flexera, because our Flexera material is higher strength studies than what the mill is. But the mill is limited because most of those milled dentures have to use stock teeth. And if you have an existing registration denture, many of the software can't really determine what mold that is. So printing the 3D denture, you can design the teeth exactly the way they were, or exactly the way you want them, and you're not limited to a mold size. So 3D printing becomes a much more flexible variable when it comes to customizing that denture for the patient.
That makes complete sense. Let's see, are samples available to be used with the printer? I guess, do you provide samples? I think
we provide samples, yes. I can send you a sample of a denture, a Flexera denture. All
right, Norman, we'll reach out to you, and we can make that happen. All right. Can you really do dentures in 24 hours? Wouldn't they just be temporary?
Well, the difference between temporary and permanent has to do with the strength of the material.
Okay.
But yes, you can design a denture depending on how fast it is. If you were doing it yourself, or you had a technician, you could take your exocad software and design that denture in if you're good, about 20 minutes. And send it to the printer. It takes about an hour and a half to print the base in a vertical orientation, or a 45-degree orientation, about 45 minutes for the Flexera smile arch for the teeth. And then they're cleaned and put together. So absolutely, you can do it in 24 hours.
Nice. So from end to end, from that, so design in 20 minutes. How long did you say to print kind of the base and the arch?
About an hour and a half for the base in a vertical orientation and about 45 minutes for the arch, which is in a horizontal orientation.
Okay, yeah, geez, that's fast. All right. And is Flexera able to be used for implant hybrids, or is it the eDent 1000 resin better for this?
The eDent 1000 resin is the pre-market name for Flexera.
Oh, all right. Fun fact, didn't know that. Okay. Where is it the weakest? Shear, tensile, or compressive forces?
I don't have that data in front of me. Let's compare. I can provide that data if they want my, like send them an email.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. When we can share Kevin's email as well for that. And can you copy an existing denture and make a new one? Yeah, I guess that's more of just a scanning question.
Yeah, you're going to scan it, and you're going to. I mean, this is where relines and broken dentures and go away, right? Because if somebody comes in with a broken denture, or they need a reline, or they want a copy denture, you can scan that existing denture in place and provide them within a couple of hours a new denture.
All right, and that kind of ties into this next question about the turnaround time from data acquisition to sending it to the design center to getting it back for printing. So like Kevin said, you can, if you're pretty proficient at scanning, scan in a minute, send it to a design center, they design it in 20 to 30 minutes, and then you can have it back ready for printing. So maybe we should have named the webinar dentures in 2 hours. So
2-hour dentures.
That might be a little tight, but so it's pretty quick. It's pretty quick. Let's see here. Let's see, there's a lot of questions. This is awesome. Kevin, can you elaborate step by step on how you articulate the arches to get the relationship between how the patient bites so that the design service can know what the tooth setup should be?
As far as getting the bite registration?
Yeah.
You just take the bite registration as you normally do.
All right.
And then you scan it in, and the bite block can be all scanned in.
All right. So how about, let's perhaps you mean like if you have an edentulous patient.
Repeat the question again.
All right. Let's see. And if not, we can take it offline. So basically, how do you articulate the arches to make sure it's set up properly? So that again,
that's all done in the software.
Yeah, and also that's done with in the scanning software as well. And in terms of making sure that you're trained properly on how to use the scanner, how to scan an edentulous patient, how to take the bite with an edentulous patient, that is actually a really good thing to talk to your scanner reseller about, right? So that's where it comes back to the training and support. So anything around like capturing the bite or that digitizing that impression, that's all scanning. So let me see what else.
But it's done traditionally, right? You're still going to take bite registration material. You're still going to take a bite block. You're still going to find your central relation in your VDO using your bite block, and that's just going to be scanned in, but done traditionally as if you would normally do it.
All right, here's another one. So how do you seat the Flexera Smile into the Flexera base after both are printed?
So interesting. The base and the teeth are basically the same chemistry. And when we're going to lute the base to the teeth, we want to use the same chemical. So we take the uncured resin of the denture base and we drop a little drop into the sockets. We place the arch into its sockets, and then with a tiny instrument, just kind of go around every marginal area, making sure that there's no pockets and it's all filled in. Use a little pen light to set it, and then it goes into an auto flash and it's cured. We find that using a third-party adhesive is actually less, it's not as beneficial as using its own material. So it becomes one polymer piece.
Oh, that's good. That's good to know. All right, so it's the material indicated for permanent dentures, the Flexera. So I assume yes.
Yes, it's a class in FDA class 2. It's designed for permanent. The IFUs that we write within the FDA says that the Flexera is designed for permanent denture restorations. We're coming out with another material called Flexera Ultra Smile, which will have a higher degree of ceramic in there. And that IFU would also be a class 2, will be used for permanent restorations in the mouth. So even though we have 2 materials, they're going to have 2 class 2 FDA cleared restorations. They're going to have different 2 IFUs, one for permanent crowns and one for permanent dentures.
Okay. I just want to be mindful of time, and we have so many questions, and so what we're going to do is because we still have to like walk through the actual workflow. We're going to show the printer, see some printed products. And so what we'll do is at the end of the webinar, we'll actually go through all these questions and we'll answer them, and we can email them out to all of the attendees, because these are all really good questions. And I just
You want to show the printer now?
Sure. So what we'll do is, I'm just going to close this out here. Let's show the printer. And so, but I guess before we show the printer, I just want to set it up in the sense that, a lot of the questions we're talking about, like, how do you take an impression? How do you design? And then how do you print? So at Evident, we always look at everything in the digital workflow, like digital fabrication workflow, is scan, design, and print. So scanning, which we've talked about, taking that digital impression, as a design center, we're also a Medit reseller. And so we always recommend the Medit because speed, it's accurate, it's an open system. And back to that training and support, right? If you're scanning an edentulous patient, isn't really the easiest thing. And so, there's techniques, things you need to keep in mind when you're scanning. So, making sure that you work with a reseller that lives and breathes a digital workflow. So once you scan, you're going to send to a design center or design yourself in ExoCAD or 3Shape. But again, making sure that you, as a doctor, either you're doing a lot of cases, or if that's not what you're wanting to do, being able to send to a design center that designs hundreds and hundreds of cases a day. So really you need to understand those steps before you now go to step number 3, which is printing. So this is Kevin. Why don't you, I know we have Miguel on here to be able to.
Miguel, you ready?
There he
Hi,
is.
Kevin. Hi, everyone.
This is Miguel, our Director of Technical Services. You have any really specific technical questions, you can ask him.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Kevin. So yeah, we're here at Envision Tech, and we're getting ready to show off the equipment here. I have 2 printers running. Well, I have one just running. Let me flip my camera so you guys can see. So here I have the D4K Pro. We can see that there's right now currently a job running on the equipment. Very nice touch screen, very easy. I mean, you can see by the size of the equipment, it's really not all that big. But the nice thing is, if I open up this door, you can see that there's, the print job is currently printing and the machine is going. Now, one thing I want to show about the equipment, the heart of the printer, which if you see the yellow thing in the back there, that's the heat sink that runs throughout the entire back of the printer. That's the projector, right? So the projector is about, I would say 50 to 60% of the printer. And that projector is rated to, provide for, first of all, the required wattage needed to run this material, which is, again, like Kevin said, it's a long chain molecule chemistry. But it also, because of the size of the projector, it really extends the life of the equipment. It's not a printer you're going to replace within a couple of years. It's a printer that's going to last you for quite some time. So this is a printer in its running state. I'm going to shift over here to a printer that is not currently running. Right now we have this one kind of nice and clean. Again, you can see the projector, you see the platform. To take the platform out, I can easily lift up this latch, slide out the platform, lock it back down. And then also I have the material tray, which sits on the inside here. The nice thing about these material trays, which is the consumable of the printer, is it's extremely easy to replace, and it's easy to run. If you want to run 5, 10 different materials, you just pull your tray out, put your new tray in, and you're ready to go. So it's extremely easy to use, extremely easy to maintain. And we have if you go to www.help.envisiontech.com, you're going to find all types of videos and resources that show you how to maintain the equipment and how to get it running. Also the interface on the machine, a couple of different options. But again, once you're done getting your designs going on the design side and you're ready to send the files to the printer, you jump into your Envision 1RP, use the automated hyperprint feature for Flexera Base and Flexera Smile. It automatically automates the entire process and it sets up your files just like that. So it automatically supports just the border. So that way the patient fitting part doesn't have any polishing, any finishing. And since when you're gonna go to fit the denture in the mouth, you're gonna touch up those edges anyways. So you're not really adding supports to any parts that you're gonna be worried about fitting in the future. So you set that up. This entire setup takes you maybe, I would say 15 to 20 seconds in the software. You send the job over to the printer, you open up your jobs list, you select your job, and then you're ready to run. You can delete, you can play your job, you can also rotate and look at the what's it called? The preview. And again, it's extremely easy to set up, extremely easy to use. The printer literally goes on your desk and you should be ready to run it within a minute of receiving the equipment. And again, we do have an entire library built behind the equipment itself. It's a public site, so you can visit it whether you're an Envision Tech customer or not currently, and look at all of the documentation we have, all the videos we have, and just get acquainted with the equipment. Anything else you want me to put on?
Do you have some printed dentures you can show us?
Some printed dentures. I actually have some. Give me 1 second.
One of the things he showed, that denture support that he has, it's an automatic file, because one of the difficulties in printing a denture is that if you print it on the horizontal orientation, it's either all over the palatal area or it's all over the intanglial surface. So this specific file preparation puts it right along the ridge, so you have no supports in the intanglial surface, or very little. And so the file preparation is important for us because we want to speed it up for the practice and not spend too much time creating supports.
Yeah, and that's actually, such a common mistake. I've seen that so many times where you print it and you're like, oh, the supports are placed wrong. So that's really smart.
Miguel, can you place those teeth into the socket? Do they fit?
These actually still have some of the supports, but
oh, never mind then.
Yeah,
oh, I see.
Yeah, I mean, so I'd have to break these up and place them. So I know we have a bunch. Yeah, sorry. But yeah, like you guys were mentioning, one of the scariest parts of getting into 3D printing is the digital side, right? It's I have to learn this software, I have to learn how to nest, I have to make sure I orient correctly, I have to make sure I support correctly. We take all of that math, all of that knowledge out of the equation, and we make it, again, this one button that does all of the work for you. So really the only process you have to do on the software side is maybe a 15-20 second process.
That's crazy. That's so fast. So that's fantastic. Let's see. So while we have you here, Miguel, maybe a few more questions. So what's the minimum thickness allowed in a denture?
The minimum wall thickness, I believe it's 2.5 for the actual design. Now that doesn't apply to the sockets. The sockets, I believe, are I think it's like 0.5 millimeter, right? 800 microns.
Okay. All right. And Flexera, it can only be used on Envision Tech printers. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's see what else do we have here. Can dentures? Okay. Can the denture be repaired or relined using printed models, or is it compatible with traditional denture acrylics?
So chemically, it's a PMMA. So technically, it should bond with the reline material. But what we're finding people doing instead of relining is that they're taking a wash impression of the existing denture, scanning that in, sending it to you, and then a new denture is designed with the new reline thickness and then printed, so you get a new printed denture. Because it costs about $12 to print this denture, $12 US. It's just as fast to print that denture is to send it out to the local lab to do a 2-hour reline process. So we have to rethink the way we do dentistry, and relines now are basically a wash impression and a reprint because it doesn't cost much. Yeah. Same thing with broken dentures. And once you have that SCL file, if he does break that denture, you don't need it. You can just print it off what you had on that patient's file, which is great. Having that at access to you is a huge advantage for that patient and being able to get something to them quickly.
Yeah, they don't have to come back to the practice. You can just do it for them. It's great. So looking at the time here, I just have a few more questions, and then we can wrap up here. But with, I guess, the D4K, what type of doctor is that printer geared for?
Really, it's a matter of applications, right? Because the D4K is a true plug and play, and we put this for the clinical setting because when you start this thing, there's no additional setup that's needed. We could get the software up and running and send it in. The applications on the D4K exist the same as they do on the Invision 1 and the P4K. You have Flexera. We have a new night guard material that's going to be extremely strong, something that doesn't exist on the market. We're working on clear aligner materials. We're working on zirconia in the D4K. We're working on a lot of things that are really futuristic that are here to come. And I think when you look at a company that you want to tie to, you want to look at somebody who's looking at the future, and that's material specific, and those performance plastics and zirconia. And then if you tie in the desktop metal applications with the binder technology and printing chrome, and then down the road we'll be printing other performance and high performance materials, there's a lot to be said. And the D4K, we'll be able to do a lot of those applications for that general practice, whether it's aligned, Essex retainers, models, dentures, night guards, surgical guides, or soon to come bleaching trays.
So great. Like, what can you tell us about the printing zirconia? That's really fascinating.
Yeah, well, that's the goal. I mean, and we're all trying to find a solution, not only in the binder jetting side, but in the DLP side. So I know that's something that's work in progress. Unfortunately, we were a publicly owned company, and if I told you, I'd probably lose my job. So as far as I can go.
Got it. Fair enough. I tried. All right. Some quick questions. Again, we're going to maybe go for a couple more minutes. So do they need to be glazed after the wash and cure process? Is there polishing?
So Miguel, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think most of what we do is we do a pumice polish, clean it up, and then we do a high polish with the universal Ivoclar polishing paste. Is that all we do, Miguel?
Correct. No, yeah, we have that. We have customers that do that. We also have customers that do full characterization and add, extra texture to that. So it's compatible with all current characterization equipment, and so you can get as fancy as you want with the look of the denture.
Yeah, I mean, GC Gradia and OptiGlaze and the Annex Dent material, those are all highly used characterization kits.
Okay. Then how much? So for a full arch denture design from Evident, it's $60 an arch. But how, I guess, ballpark, or how much is a D4K printer?
US, it's 11,400.
All right. And then like the Flexera, how much is the resin?
It's $500 US a liter.
Okay. Right.
And then the Smile is $600 US a liter. So when we print out a denture, a full denture with the teeth, a full arch with the teeth and the base is around $12 US printed in material cost.
Okay, that's great. Can you use your setup to make partial dentures with acrylic clasps?
We have a partial denture material that we're going to relaunch next year. Miguel, do you have any more information on that? We're making
it's undergoing. Yeah. It's undergoing some more clinical validation before we launch. So it's in the works.
So using the same type of Flexera chemistry that created this, we've created a flexible partial, which is really a ceramic infused PMMA with a high modulus. And we've been selling the beta material for, we brought it out a little bit last year, and we've had some people test it, and we realized that we need to increase the strength of this and the toughness of this. So we've gone back to reformulation, and we'll relaunch it after the first of the year.
Great. I'm sorry. We're going to do one more question here. Why can't any 405 DLP printer be used with the Flexera resin?
The Flexera resin requires a high degree of power to activate that double cross-link polymerization. So in a traditional denture, we heat pack it, we press pack it in order to activate that cross-link. So you either heat or you light cure it. That light source, if it's a weak light source, it's not going to create that cross-link polymerization. You have a very weak light. So the power of that is very, very important. 405 versus 305 is kind of, but a little different part of that topic. Most of these PMMAs, they're using either certain photo initiators. These photo initiators get kicked off with the 385 light source. It's a shorter light source. The 405 light source is a longer light source. It doesn't activate those photo initiators much better. And because it's longer, that light will scatter throughout the part, and you'll get overcured areas in some spots and undercured areas in other spots. So you don't get an efficient polymerization with a 405 light source. Does that answer your question?
I answered my question, and so that was really good, because you always wonder, like, why can't they be interchangeable? But
405 and 385 are actually the length of a light, and we have photo initiators that have to kick off at certain wavelengths, and it's important. And you'll notice that in a night guard. If you print something on print and cure something at 405 on a night guard, and then you do one cure in 385 on a 385 material, you'll see the 405 is yellow because you have unset off photo initiators, where our 385 is clear. So that's important, very important, actually.
Like, I feel like we could talk forever on this, so we'll have to do this again. And so what I want to do is, Kevin, people are asking for your contact info. So before you give it, I don't want anyone to leave yet, we're going to do our last poll. All right. So as that pops up, Kevin, do you mind sharing your email address? Or
yeah, you want me to throw it in the chat?
Yeah, why don't you put it in the chat, and then people have it, because I'm sorry we weren't able to get to. I think we covered most of the questions. Yeah, we did a pretty good job there. So most of the questions, but please reach out to myself. I'll put my email in the chat as well for anything scanners, design center, and then Kevin's probably your best bet, or even Miguel for 3D printing. So thank you so much for all sticking around for that extra 8 minutes. Kevin, love to have you back again. You and Miguel, such good information. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having us. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, and thank you, Miguel. Thanks for joining us as well.
Of course.
Great.
Thank you guys for having us. Appreciate it.
Of course. So thanks, everyone. And we will talk to you next time. Have a great day.
All right. Thank you.